that match, and there were members of IF who were watching and actually were commenting in the chat. We're talking to CDEPs and Cookies talk about the game, and maybe they've taken it to heart. Maybe they've actually seen those issues they had during that game, and they said they've worked through it this whole entire week. They've had time, and you said 2 weeks later. 2 weeks is enough time to go through it and figure things out. And let's go to the bands first, of course, and it's gonna be Thatcher as per usual because it's Oregon. Nobody likes Thatcher.
Not a surprise here in Oregon, specifically for the next step. Wouldn't be surprised if we might see a hard breach ban. Flores is also sometimes been a bit more common of a ban, and it will actually be that Flores. It's not that surprising here, though, because one, he is very powerful, but two, based on the way that Oregon plays and how horizontal it is, those shields can have a massive impact because they can't often be destroyed vertically, and Flores is often used to counter that lack of verticality. But next up, Benny, a Jaeger ban. Not as powerful as it once was, but still something that can throw some teams off guard.
And the fact that, since they banned Flores, they had the choice here of banning either Ying or Flores, and they banned Flores, so then they banned Jaeger next, so Ying is going to be that much more deadly in this match, and Valkyrie be the last one gone, because, of course, nobody wants to deal with Valkyrie. But Thresh just leaves, this leaves Mira on the board as well, but if you have Mira and you have Ying, that could be easily dealt with if you have the Ying, and you just, Candela the crap out of those Miras.
Candelas, smoke canisters, whatever have you, there are plenty of options for secondary utility to take down those mirror windows. Again, with the lack of verticality, can sometimes be difficult to destroy black mirrors depending on the certain position, but again, as you said, Ying is going to be the operator to watch, and look at that, Benny, to start things off, unless FICO 6 picks, he might change it up. But with 5 seconds remaining, I'm going to go ahead and make a guess that Ying might be a bit of a factor in this lineup going forward. This could be an example of Nocturns peering in and reading into IF's defenses, or reading into the fact that IF did not make much use of the Ying on their attacking phase against Livid in a couple weeks ago, as CJ mentioned on the desk.
Yeah, they only brought it I think once or twice only, and
yeah,
when
I think they brought
use
it in one of their final attacking rounds.
Yeah, it was one of their final attacking rounds, and it doesn't matter if you have an entry lineup, if someone of that powerful utility, when you don't get to use it until the end of the round, because as we talked about on the desk, they took time and time again, they would take the full 2 minutes and 45 seconds to actually get around to executing, and by that point, even if you have 3 Candelas, you can only throw so many in those dying seconds of the round, and so we'll see how they do here, and of course, Arrow, he will 6-pick onto the ward. And it's interesting with the change to flashes with Ying and change to flash in general. It's interesting to see how much people start playing more and more in these lineups.
Well, as long as Nocturns or whoever in this game brings a Ying, if there's a Warden on the defense, he is going to be the operator to watch for that defensive side, especially once that execute starts happening, whether it's in the red zone or if we start to see the heat turned on, like CJ mentioned, we start to see that execute happen earlier and earlier. Whenever it happens, if there's a Ying on the board and a Warden as well, you better be watching whoever is playing that Warden. Right now, FICO is actually the first in the building, but he's all the way on the top floor right now. For the record, the side is basement, so Nocturns will have to make their way all the way down to the bottom floor. And since there is no hard breaching ban, there was a Cade, but he was 6-picked off. So, what are you talking about? I actually can't see.
Oh, someone's on the top floor of tower. There's a big tower room.
I thought you just meant FICO. I was like, yeah, FICO's. I was like, FICO's looking in attic. Yeah, he's doing
it. But yeah, since the big thing to talk about too, and we heard about on the desk, was how long it took for IF to clear things out. And well, Nocturnes has had similar issues, but not nearly as major. So it'll be interesting to see how well can Nocturnes deal with a 3rd floor roamer, a T3 roamer of Big Tower. Of course, you want to spot someone on the bottom of Freezer stairs. Sykes will hold it off for the moment, but so far it's been quick for Nocturnes. It's been refreshing to see a team take control of that 1st floor and 2nd floor as quickly as they have so far. Well, let's see if they can convert that into an execute, though, as we still have to deal with those roamers.
Yeah, and with Jaeger taken down off the board, some of the nades in the hands of Lackey, for example, and Marmalade as well are going to be much more impactful, and Sub on that Wamai has to be a lot more careful about where he wants to place those magnets. Look at him, actually storing, I believe, all of them up to start throwing in various positions, but the question is, how much has he stocked over on towards that Freezer side? And that will make Sykes' task of burning anything out over there all the more important. Minute 40 seconds into the round, and so far the emphasis placed by Nocturnes has been on this Freezer side, and so I'm anticipating that will start to dispense some magnets as well. The first one burned, and likely another one to come. Will these nades finally find impact, or IF doing enough to stall out Nocturnes' attack?
Well, there's the mirror windows. Looks like one mirror window is facing that laundry side as per usual, and I believe the other one's facing freezer. So this is kind of the difficult part for this freezer take, is that there are mirrors in the way. Nocturnes are throwing grenades, are throwing utility in and try and bait them out. Here come the Candelas in the freezer, pushing them out of the members of IF. So walking through, pushing through comes FICO. He's looking for a kill, but no, pre-fires from Arrow because he's playing that Warden, playing a great position to get you with another kill. He's high in the corner waiting. He knows he's at the corner. He does. Great Arrow. He sits and waits. Vid with another kill and a Lackey. It's Sykes. It lasts in a 1v5. All of his members have gone down. All of his teammates are dead. He's got to make a 1v5 somehow happen, and no way in heck is he going to be able to do it because Inrio's ready to take him down.
There's the importance of that Warden. Send all those Candelas in, but since there was such a heavy emphasis placed on Freezer, that's exactly where that Warden was looking. Nocturne staked so much of their execute on Freezer, which is ironic considering that a lot of mistakes teams sometimes make on basement executes is just sending it down main and not diversifying their resources enough into Freezer, or at least that was a mistake made early on when the map first entered the pool. That time, Nocturnes placed a lot of emphasis on Freezer, understandably with how much utility and importance it is when it comes to that take. But by sending FICO down Freezer stairs, dumping all of those Candelas in that area, well, that's exactly what IF planned on. They put Arrow in that position behind the laundry machine with Warden, so if those Candelas popped out in Freezer, he can just send bullets down range, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel in that point. Since nobody was really coming from laundry, the only one was Marmalade, and she came in long after Arrow and the rest of IF already had their impact. Wasn't much they could do at that point. So I think there were a lot of good elements of Nocturne's take, but in the end, it was just a case of too much of a good thing compressed into one area.
Yeah, I kind of felt like it was more like, it was kind of like there were things set up to deal with that, and they kind of just went head on against them, and it's kind of you know, a measure against a counterplay.
Played right into IF.
Yeah, exactly. And the question at that point was, how good are IF's countermeasures? And well, of course, you saw in the round they were good enough to deal with the Ying.
It was flawless.
It was flawless.
So pretty good by all metrics.
It was perfect that you could say it was perfect. But yeah, it's just in the end the Ying is too obvious at this point because it's a Jaeger ban. It's too obvious to bring the Ying, and the mirror is available, and so is the Warden. So there are countermeasures in place to bring in from that. So well, we go on to our top floor defense now, and yellow pings coming out and a player inside of tower. And well, do they know they're getting pinged? Oh, now they do, because they're getting shot at. It's Subarctic who's gonna walk away from that engagement, knowing that Lackey and maybe other members of Nocturnes are putting pressure on Big Tower. Grenade comes out. He's gonna back off, hearing the pin pulled out. And Lackey has now taken control of Big Tower actually, and be able to push back the member of Subarctic. So a good start for Nocturnes already.
That is important, and Sub will manage to get away as well, but a lot of utility on the side of IF. That losing that frag grenade is really going to hurt you. Deployable shields, 3 castle barricades, Malusi Banshees, Aruni Gates, though you're not going to... The goal is not to burn the Aruni Gates with frag grenades, but you get the point I'm trying to make, is that losing one of those very small and scarce resources could be really damaging with all the bulletproof and utility that IF are bringing that you need explosives to destroy. However, Nocturnes are also bringing that Ying, and a Warden is nowhere to be found on IF's side. They're placing a lot more emphasis on that utility and not the direct counterplay of that Ying. The first and foremost element of that is playing inside of Armory, and right now it's not actually there. It's Sykes down below just one floor inside a meeting who finds Sub as the first pick of the round.
It looks like another player is below as well, maybe coming up those laundry stairs. I don't remember what silhouette though is from the defense, but somebody's still roaming. Try and put a damper onto this first floor take from Nocturne. That's the Inrio. Is the MP5 of Malusi, slowly but surely making the way up to try and stop this push from the side of IF, because they're doing that, doing that really normal take of, taking Attic, take control of games while push in, and with the first pick in the hands of Nocturnes, that could spring into a play as well. Marmalade takes a lot of damage pushing off. Inrio though, in great shot on the Sykes, deals with that first floor player, and now, well, Nocturnes, it's just 4-4. It's going back and forth.
Yeah, Inrio is down below, but importantly, he does not have a C4, and also it's now a 4v2 on the site. It's only Vivid and Giddy left, and while there is some important utility, mainly those smoke canisters, there's still some important utility on the attack, namely those Candelas now firing in. Inrio has rotated up to white stairs, but he's taken down through the wall. An excellent shot by FICO, and now it is an effective, or in reality, a 4v2. Make that one left on the side of IF. Vivid, who was also on white stairs with his comrade Inrio, will take down FICO mid-Candela throw, but he'll be forced to rotate off of white stairs. Pulls out the super shorty, hoping that maybe the bomb planter is next to big window, but it's not true. He's rotated over by Attic, and you'll have to take down Lackey in order to make his way there in this 1v3. Damaged him a little bit, but it's the UMP. Not the most famous guns for damage. In fact, quite the opposite. It makes it notorious for a reason. And a lack of intel is also rearing its ugly head for Vivid, one that ends up biting him in the end. Nocturns, after a bit of a shaky round one, look fairly solid in their second one, despite some problems on the flank and down below.
Yeah, there was definitely some counterplay when it comes to just movement there, positioning from IF. But in the end, like you said, during that round was because Inreal was, flanking, roaming around. It came to a 2v, 2v4 on site after getting that third kill of the round and giving the advantage into that late game execute. Those Candelas were huge. FICO throws those Candelas and nobody can see anything. He gets to get headshot in the member white stairs of Inreal, who was turning back to site. And really, FICO just walks in, takes out the second person, the smoke sitting inside of Attic, and at that point, it's a 1v4 at that point. 1v4, but they get to kill 1v3. But still, he has no intel. He has to walk back up white stairs and try and walk back into site that's been taking control of the attack. So unfortunately, it's very difficult there. And while there was some aggression from IF, it seems like it didn't exactly turn out the way they wanted it to.
And also now here, so Nocturns, we saw round one wasn't successful with the Ying. Round two, they ran the Ying and it was successful. But now for round three, I think it's pretty safe to say this is going to be a mainstay in Nocturne's lineup, not just some one-off strategy with that Jaeger ban and that Flores ban. This is really their strategy going forward. You can say that with absolute certainty. But for IF, Benny, they haven't really been bringing that Warden all that much. Their defensive setups haven't been bad. They've had a lot of necessary components, a lot of operators that will force the attackers to burn utility and likely waste their time. Now going here, a lot of potential for intel denial that could make brute forcing their way through certain points a lot more difficult due to a lack of intel. But is the lack of that Warden potentially a mistake, considering how heavily Nocturnes are relying on that Ying?
It really could be. It's just the fact that they don't have a Jaeger. They only have the Womai, and they're not even bringing the Womai. They are bringing the Rooney, so some of those things can be cut off, but in the end, it depends on the execute from the attack. And really, yeah, I would say those Candelas in those executes have been so strong so far, and I don't know what exactly you're going to do to deal with it in those dying moments. Especially if you have the control that they have. Oh, he just sees one open, and it looks like he did see a member of IF try to make a peek from that small tower window, but they'll back off for the moment. And yeah, I'm interested to see if... Oh, never mind. Exile gets killed out. Looks like Arrow was one of those members playing aggressive. He gets that first pick, and that's not great to see. And one of those Heartbreachers off the board for Nocturnes. Yeah, I'm interested to see how much, if this Ying is such a big thing, will they start bringing the Ward more on the side of IF?
That is the question, but also in relation to that first pick, that's pretty impactful. For this site in particular, Meeting Hall and Kitchen, the attack doesn't have to do a lot. You open up that wall, that attic wall, you open up that meeting wall, and as long as you have somebody watching both, you're honestly good at that point to get the plant down. But the hard breacher that's left after the loss of Exod is Marmalade, who is at far more risk of opening up those walls than Exod would be. Hibana can open up those walls at range. Marmalade has to get up close and personal and then to start opening things up. Thankfully for them, there are some soft walls made, one down below within a Rooney gate and some footholes, the other with a rotation hole made up top, but it does still indicate that could be a bit more difficult to go for that standard strategy.
Yeah, this meeting room take is usually what we see a lot of teams do, where they just open the wall and plant, like you said. And so, but it seems as though IF are expecting it and making holes in return to try and fire back. There's a member on stage, as per usual. We've seen other teams play Alibi there, or play some operator 1.5 and play that position. No, there's one person behind it. Looks like the Rooney of Subarctic is playing that position for as long as possible. And really, what is Nocturnes going to do? Are they going to rotate to a different take, or to take a kitchen rotate instead? A kitchen plants, but so far Arrow playing great, takes out Lackey as well. Arrow's retaken T2, a big tower. Sub playing on top of stage goes down, but Arrow is a menace. 3 kills for the round.
And now those Candelas are one. Phantom Candela will come out after the Ying has already fallen. Arrow retaken up top, such a powerful position that now Nocturnes, they have to decide, do they want to deal with the enemy to their backs in very short notice, or just try to barrel their way through the site, knowing that in all likelihood, Arrow will come back from there behind. Vivid will send out a Tachanka flame grenade, and it just goes past. And actually, the bullets go right towards them as well. A 2-piece for Vivid to round things out. And overall for Nocturnes, the loss of Exod early on clearly seemed to stump them a little bit as to what they should do going forward. Never really made much progress outside of Big Tower.
Yeah, it was interesting because if they had the least Habanas, they could try and deal with Subarctic. They killed Subarctic sooner or later, but it took them a while to do it, and it allowed for the member of Arrow to retake Attic, to retake T2 of Big Tower, and just basically, as you said before, in that end game was, do they go behind them and deal with Arrow, or they go forward and try and push onto site? Just being stuck between a hard place and or a hammer and an anvil. In that instance, the hammer was Arrow at that point, really just running through and dealing a heavy blow to the attackers who were stuck unable to push anything, lost their hard breacher. They couldn't really make a huge hole to walk in, so they were just kind of stuck in big tower, trying to figure out trying to find picks, trying to find a weakness in that strat. So great job from IF to take that round. We go back downstairs to the basement.
And ironically enough, it's the tertiary bomb site that has looked the weakest for Nocturnes so far. On basement, at least, they were able to get, actually, 2 and execute it. Fortunately, wasn't one that worked particularly well, as the flawless result of that round in IF's favor clearly indicates, but it was a problem where they put so much focus on Freezer, Arrow, the direct counter to Ying, and Nocturnes, most of their Candelas were focused on Freezer, was perfectly able to counter everyone rotating that way, and since there was also a bit of a lack of intel on site, when Marmalade did finally push in from Laundry Stairs, her back was completely turned to Arrow, and there wasn't much she could do at that point. So for here, let's see if Nocturnes, one adjustment they could make is instead of sending all your manpower on Freezer, maybe send Marmalade and your Ying on FICO on main stairs, throw them that way, and then make the push on in, because if you just play directly into IF setup, and specifically Arrow a second time in a row, it's gonna meet a similar fate to last time.
Yeah, it's like the play makes sense though for if there wasn't a ward on board, because they would just make sure that nobody playing Freezer could stop the synchronization of the push, and they could push in. But you know, of course, they didn't think that there's gonna be a ward sitting behind the laundry machine waiting for it. So, you know, a little bit, you know, didn't really calculate for that. Kind of hard to when you don't know who's playing where. You know, intel is hard to take when it's on site, so it happens sometimes. But I'm assuming this time they have some kind of thought process to dealing with that ward and playing the position. Maybe they'll execute it the same way. Maybe they'll have a grenade go that way to push out Arrow. I don't know what else. What else could you do to deal with a warden sitting behind a laundry machine?
you probably will have to take somebody utility. Of course, with only the Wamai, if you're able to burn those magnets, you might not have to worry about a nade getting caught by a magnet at any point. But that does also mean being a little bit quicker. Nocturnes, they made their way into Freezer and started executing about 1:45 left, and if you're running on the same schedule and you try to set up a nade onto Arrow at that exact same time, that execute, which is already coming a little bit late, is only going to be even later if you try to make that a focus of your push. And unfortunately for Nocturnes right now, they are rotating a little bit. In fact, it's over to Big Tower instead of Laundry, but we do have to see if they're going to make those strides in time, because right now, still looking a bit distant from the point of an execute.
Yeah, it seems like members of Nocturnes still look like they are rotating. Members like Exot are going over to Big Tower. Sykes maybe is trying to make a distraction, make it seem like they're going for that same play as he plays those Freezer Stairs, or maybe expecting maybe one of the IF members to go for a flank later on. But, you know, members from IF don't really have to move at this point. Investigative Files are just waiting for the members of Nocturnes. And it's interesting, you know, Exot's actually playing main, so Sykes and Exot are playing maybe for the late game flank, while maybe the batch is going to push that Big Tower stairs. No, maybe they're rotating back. I don't know at this point, because they're going back and forth.
Well, it does appear they're still just going to go for that flood. It appears the only question is where they want FICO. He rotated from Big Tower over towards main. Oh, thankfully a C4 does massive amounts of damage to Marmalade, a little bit to Sykes, but neither's lives are claimed. So a lot better situation than it could have been had they been a little bit closer to that C4's blast radius. With 38 seconds left, I'm imagining this is where FICO is going to remain, over by that main lobby. Marmalade has also rotated to join them, so a heavy emphasis placed on those main stairs this time, and now it's Sykes who's kind of alone inside of Freezer right now. But no, FICO is instead, once again, rotating over to Freezer. Are they going to succumb to that same play by Arrow? 20 seconds left will indicate the answer to that question. He'll send the first Candela in. It launches, but unfortunately for them, it's 2 kills for Giddy to start things poorly for Nocturnes, going the exact same direction as last time. Nocturnes, they try to repeat their previous take. They don't learn from history. It's the exact same outcome on basement. 2 flawlesses for IF.
They didn't even have the smokes this time. Even they just flashed the corner of Freezer and then tried the. I don't know. Trust me. But anyway, seems to be the same round, and this time it seemed like Nocturnes, like the big thing that end the round is off course. They take the round. They take the control of first and second floor. There's no roamers this time from IF. They'll be playing Big Tower, so they have control they need. They seem to maybe want to rotate to a Big Tower take, but they didn't seem to find anything to propel that take. They didn't have any kind of intel or couldn't find a weakness in IF's defense, so they couldn't really go for it. And at that point, they go back to just a regular defense. They go back to regular execute onto Laundry and Freezer, and it was pretty much the same play. You still saw Lackey or FICO on the Ying go into Freezer, flash the Freezer. There was no smokes this time though to allow them to run into Freezer, farther into Freezer, and then they're Giddy. I think I saw Giddy playing the rotate. It wasn't even the Warden this time playing the rotate. It was Giddy on a different member playing the rotate as Mira. He just deals with the members flooding from Laundry.
Yeah, it was not as you adequately put it, not only was it the same take, but it was the same take with even less resources at their disposal. So maybe there was something on the big tower side that we didn't see that made FICO scared. There were quite a few people playing over on that side, so if you were just going to try to make a hatch drop with only Lackey and only FICO, and they were both dropping down that E-box hatch, probably would have got slaughtered in all honesty. So maybe it was a good idea to rotate off, but it was clear there was some uncertainty in the Rakes and Nocturns. That cost them some time, and as you said, Benny, with the lack of resources to make that take work, they were walking into a bloodbath and another slaughter of a different form at that point. Now the next site, we are of course taking a pause right now. The next site does appear to be Dorms, which, if you remember, was the one time Nocturns have won this, and it was on the backs of a fairly successful play by the Ying.
Yeah, it was a decent one. It was there was some early aggression from IF that was caught out. You saw early in the round, you saw Subarctic playing big tower, tries to retreat, gets cut off, and then Inrio on a flank does get a kill, but he's still on the flank, which makes it, another member on site dies as well. Makes it a 2v4 on site, and Ying is the perfect time to use that. Ying site, all those members don't know where the execute's coming from because they're blind or they're not really sure what's happening, and allows for FICO to walk in, take a pick onto the smoke, and deal with Inrio as well, and puts into a 1v4 for the last member of IF. So, you said before too, they had all of this utility to deal with that kind of that dump to cause time for Nocturnes to waste time utility wise. But even with all the utility they had, it's still like members were still getting picked off left and right.
But still, going forward, we see another adjustment, Benny. They're bringing the Warden on a site that isn't basement, sticking it on Dorms. So they do still have a lot of that utility, but it's the Castle they've replaced, and instead put him in with the Warden. And that's a pick that I like. Castle's obviously very good. He can burn a lot of utility. But in this case here, Warden still has that deployable shield, and on top of that, he is a direct counter to that Ying. So if you lose that smoke, like you said, sure, it's not really the same. You're not wasting time on the Warden, but you are a direct counter to the execute that Nocturnes have been going for. So I think that's a really good adaptation by IF, and depending on where Giddy's positioned and how they play him, I think that could be what they need to guarantee themselves at a bare minimum a 4-2 half.
Well, let's see then. Last time it was the aggression that kind of put them out there. And there's the aggression once more. It's Subarctic not playing big tower. He's playing kitchen this time by himself, maybe. I don't know if he's by himself or has another member. At least a member, yeah. There's a member on freezer stairs trying to help out Subarctic and keep him company so he isn't, overwhelmed by the members of Nocturne. But the question is he going to play for his life, or is he going to back off at the first moment of danger? It looks like they are opening up that wall, so he's actually backing off, trying to at least relocate to another position so he isn't totally flushed out early in this round.
Once that wall is open, it's a little bit more difficult to play that position. With the hatch open as well and support down below, perfectly reasonable for Subarctic to rotate off pretty early on. And honestly, with Nocturnes not having the quickest of attacks so far, not too terribly slow, but still not particularly quick. I was about to say this could be a lot better, but no, actually, it's... Wow, okay. So Arrow doesn't kill Sykes, the person he was shooting for. He shoots past Sykes and hits the Ying directly in the face. Sykes is like, that's not good. Gotta put the kibosh on that real quick. Takes down Arrow, but he gets killed instead by Inrio. Not only, that might be the best accidental kill I've seen in a round so far in CL, but on top of that, with Inrio, able to get Arrow's trade, beautiful play by IF on that roam, even though part of it was just pure accident.
That was great, though. I would love to see like a freeze frame slow-mo of that shot from him, because I don't think he expected that. So smokes come in. They know at this point the attack's coming, Nocturne is coming from that white stairs, pushing up, maybe going for big tower or a big window as well. And they, there's nobody playing security, so it should not be a problem to push in. But the smoke canisters, of course, are a problem. They can't push up those white stairs with smoke, you're wasting those canisters on the white stairs. And as time ticks by, and Nocturne's just waiting for a second to push us, to create this execute. Eggs out with a flash, ready to stop the members from swinging on the members on white. You will flash those members and expect to jump through, but Vivid still downs one, Subarctic downs the other one, and well, all the members from Nocturne is trying to do that last second execute with low resources will take it down.
That was a comedic start to a very sour round from Nocturnes by the end of it. Of course, losing that Ying, which they have appeared to build a lot of their takes around. At the moment that piece falls, Nocturnes clearly struggled to pick something up after that. The man advantage that Enrio then put them in with a second kill later on only made that fact all the more evident. It's also funny that the final round as well. Of course, somebody could 6-pick, somebody could change. I imagine if anybody's going to change, it might be FICO on that sledge. Could still see the Ying. Yeah, we'll still see the Ying. Okay, so I was about to say might switch away from it, but no. they'll stick back with it. And for here, funny enough, if you want to talk about rounds where Nocturnes lost a key piece and then struggled to adapt, this was the round where Exod was killed very early on, and they really struggled to make any bit of momentum after that. Not even really able to open up either of the key walls, attic or meeting. So, your Nocturnes, obviously you're going to want to maybe check your corners a little bit more and just try to get everybody in the building this time and not lose such a key hard breacher so early on. Though he has rotated off Hibana, interestingly enough.
Well, if they know it's tertiary side, I think the Thermite's a better pick here because they're just trying to create opening walking into sight. Because that's the big thing, just getting into sight and getting that plant down behind that table is kind of a big thing for them because, you know, you can't really do that with no Hibana and Maverick will take too long and it's too dangerous. So it makes more sense. We'll see how it goes for them and see if it is a sensible pick. I'm assuming it is. It seems like it is. But so far, last time we had this upstairs roam from the side of IF, and it wasn't really pushed at all. Nobody really tried to stop it. Arrow was playing top floor, and they didn't really try to kill Arrow. They didn't try to deal with them. They let him sit around and roam upstairs, and that was kind of the issue with it. That was kind of their downfall, because Arrow retakes attic, retakes big tower. Next thing you know, you've got Hammer coming out with one side, and you get an anvil of the site because you don't have a hard breacher, and you can't push. So let's see what happens this time. FICO shoots the camera as one person sitting in the white windows. Does the Mozzie of Inrio hear FICO?
Surely he does. No, he does not. In fact, it looked like he might have turned around for just a second, but excellent aggression and drone work by Nocturnes to catch Inrio on that exposed position and counter him. Now, of course, it was a bit risky. If you lose FICO early on, you're in the exact situation as you were in the round prior, so what the hell are you going to do then? But they managed to win the gunfight against Inrio, who, with his back turned and unaware of the Yink's presence, pretty easy gunfight to win. They can now carry on forward with also denying a C4 on the board for IF. Now here, getting that advantage early on, a lot more secure when it comes to entering the building. With the second kill onto Arrow as well, who proved to be the death knell for Nocturnes in that first meeting round. Well, if I do say so myself, Benny, this is looking peachy keen for Nocturnes in round number 6.
Yeah, they're getting the picks they need. Getting rid of the roam. There's still a couple more. Maybe, I think there's still one more roamer out there. Never mind, he's dead too. I lied. Vivid, though, playing from below, we're going to pick onto Sykes to try and put it back. But there goes Vivid, and now it's just Subarctic in a 1v4. This round has gone a lot different compared to the previous ones. Pick after pick, kill after kill. Nocturnes pretty much has this round in the bag unless Subarctic goes insane and takes out 4 members of the attack. Grenade comes out to destroy that shield, and all 4 members are actually in a position maybe Subarctic could play this out. Drone comes out though, and he sees one. They know his position. Now Subarctic gets shot in the back by Marmalade, and Nocturnes the end of the half, 2-4.
Not bad by any means on Oregon, but this is the point where it's important to bring up how these teams have looked in CL so far. Of course, thankfully for Nocturnes, they've only played 1 game, so don't have to do a whole lot of research there. And for IF, they've also played Oregon before, so we can look at the comparisons between the two. And both of these teams, in the games they have played so far, have struggled on attack. That point has been hammered to death, especially for IF. But for Nocturnes, on their 1 game against Clubhouse against Fernies, they won 4 defensive rounds compared to 2 attacking rounds by Fernies. For IF, they went up 5-1 on their Oregon defenses, but then they lost 5 attacking rounds against Livid to inevitably send the game for overtime. Nocturne securing a 2-4 half might not be the most important thing, but this is really the question of whether IF have worked on those attacks. They've had 2 weeks to look at their problems, go over it on this map specifically, prep for Nocturnes here, if they thought they were going to go here, which I'm assuming they did, and then make the plan happen. So, if IF have made those adjustments, a 4-2 half on defense, and they've also worked on their attacks, this could be where they end up winning things out and in much better form than against Livid.
Could be, yeah. I think the big thing we talked about, like we saw from the desk and they talked about as well, is that someone needs to step on the pedal. It was refreshing to see Nocturnes, at least that FICO or one of the members, were in the building within the first 30 seconds. And this thing that we saw from IF is that really somebody would maybe walk in the door, but then they would stand there for the next 2 minutes and not actually push or take control of anything. So from members of IF, we need to see somebody on their attack step on the pedal, take control, and start clearing parts of the map for their team. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm assuming it's going to be Inrio and Ash, but I could be wrong. We'll see what happens, though. And top floor defense, though, with starting dorms instead of starting up, the bottom floor like we saw from IF. Nocturne's more keen on starting the top floor. And the interesting, the lineup is a bit different. We usually don't see Ella and Thunderbird very often.
No, we do not. Of course, Ella does have the deployable shield, and if you're really focusing on holding power positions, that Thunderbird could be useful, providing additional health thanks to those Kona stations if anybody happens to take damage, or, as you can see from Exod, they're just standing in the proximity, and it just decides to. Alright, well, that was a bold move by Lackey. That did not pay off whatsoever. Opening kill for Arrow to start things out in round number 7, and not only have you lost your Amai, there's also another issue, or maybe not an issue, but another hiccup with Nocturne's defense. Right now, they're playing someone inside of Armory, obviously to aid the player playing inside a trophy, or at least, oh, no, actually, they've now rotated out of Armory, likely due to Lackey's opening pick. I was going to mention the Aruni's position, but now she's rotated back into bedroom, so that point is completely useless. But still, managing to take down the Wamai so early on, Lackey basically giving his life away, can't ask for a better start if you're IF.
Well, might be going to kill, but no, Sykes with a great shot to Subarctic, and, well, there goes that Armory repel, and there's your refrag, I guess. That was an interesting one.
Didn't expect it to happen that way, but...
Didn't expect that way, though. Drive-by by, Sykes there on the walkout down the hall. But so they've cleared up. They traded here, and still now we see IF that so far they've gotten the first pick due to negligence, due to some crazy aggression from Nocturns. But other than that, what has IF done in the first minute and a half? Well, Giddy will be the first one in. He'll take control of Armory. He'll walk in, and they have to deal with the shield inside Trophy, which I don't know if I don't think he's playing the shield even inside Trophy at this point, so it shouldn't be a problem to deal with it because all members of Nocturns have pulled back into sight.
It does appear everyone has now started rotating back in. Of course, they do have plenty of operators to deal with any push in. Particularly shotguns on this site, such as Marmalade or FICO, are going to be very useful with these close quarters engagements, whether it be through the breach or through the trophy door, White Stairs, hit, wherever. A shotgun is your best friend on this site in particular. For the final 50 seconds, Arrow is placing some emphasis on that bottom-up verticality, trying to get some nades through the floor. Hasn't found much success yet, does still have one left. But the question I'm asking is, what progress has IF made beyond that? They burned that Aruni gate, but has Vivid used any of his exothermics? Yes, he has used one, and if it's opened that wall, that's a key piece of an execute they need to have. They also need to make sure they put some attackers in other places. Arrow's currently on the bottom of White Stairs, currently contending with one, but now he's fallen. Now IF's take is a lot more one-dimensional. Enreal will start to push on in, but they're unaware of the player currently sitting in dorms. Marmalade gets one with the pistol. Exod there for the refrag. He rounds up both. First defensive win for Nocturnes to start things out, and for IF, it wasn't terrible. Pretty good on time management, but once they lost Arrow on White Stairs, Nocturnes knew exactly where all the remaining members were pushing from.
I would say, yeah, it definitely was better compared to last week or 2 weeks ago when it came to their execute. And it was interesting because, IF gets the first pick due to Blackie running out of White Stairs window. He gets picked off. There was a refrag though from Sykes onto that repelling member of, Subarctic on the window pushing into Armory. And, once they get those picks and the time had elapsed, it was Nocturne just to pull back at that point because they knew at that point they had the time wasted. They knew what they could do at that point. They just need to wait for IF. And like you said before, IF didn't really try to put their eggs in any other basket. They put it all mostly into one basket that was just pushing from Trophy, from games into sight. There was one member from the side of IF pushing White Stairs by himself, unfortunately. So they got picked up by Sykes with that Roni, and it just became a one-sided push that which the members of Nocturne just waited. And they had the angles they needed. They had the shields. They had people still inside of Attic to take out members pushing in from Game's wall. So unfortunately, IF didn't really have much to their push there, and it was really easy for Nocturnes to read into at that point. So we go on to downstairs. We go to a basement defense storage and laundry for Nocturnes. And, well, Ying is here from Giddy. Let's see if he can play it better than he did last time on that last round of 2 weeks ago.
Well, still, that's an adjustment we wanted to see. Either a Ying more consistently, or if they're only going to use her sporadically. A Ying brought a lot more early on and used, as you said, a lot more early on, both in the game and also in the round specifically. Giddy last time, you threw that Ying in the final, I guess, if you want to use the terminology we've coined here on the desk, in the red zone, as Connor put it. Sub 15 seconds, not sub on IF. This is an adjective, not a proper noun. So for here, that's the big thing we're going to want to see is Giddy. He's used that Ying before, but when is he placing and throwing those Candelas down? Because that could decide how well that round goes. And of course, could be decided early based on this engagement. That's exactly what will happen. Another roaming, aggressive Wamai from Nocturnes. This one goes a hell of a lot more successfully than the last one.
Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate because he pre-fired the barricade because he got the ping, but that just gives his position away to Exile, who just pre-fires back through that doorway. Unfortunate for Giddy. And there goes Ying early on in the round. I guess I'm not seeing those Candelas.
I'm gonna make a guess and say those Candelas will not have a big impact on that round. Of course, it's not Not entirely his fault. It wasn't directly due to the operator. It's just Exot. Good pre-fire by him. Giddy gave away his position by shooting, but then again, you think there's somebody about to swing you on a corner. I might fire a couple warning shots for it as well. But
Yeah,
going forward,
the intel.
yeah, exactly. But going forward here, I mean, Benny, they do still have quite a bit. They do have both those hard breachers. Vivid's gone to work with those X-Kairos. If Arrow wants to open up anything as well, still has both that torch and 2 nades as well alongside subs nades. So for clearing out utility, they're still fairly good. But like Nocturns, if this execute was really reliant on making the Ying work, they're going to have to completely switch up their play. Or maybe not completely, but still a lot more drastically.
Well, it looks like they are trying to rotate to, a big tower, maybe elbow take here, as you see Arrow running towards elbow for the moment. And the question is, you said before, do they have utility to deal with the elbow take? And there's a shield at barrels. There's a Prisma that obviously dictates his position because you just shot the Prisma. And there's probably a shield playing elbow as well. So there's still quite a lot of utility on Nocturne's side to stop them. They also pinged a disc as well, so they gotta burn that disc first, and the grenade will first go off to destroy that barrel's shield. So there it goes off. Looks like Sykes is playing it's Marmalade playing Harry Potter, and one after another, just taking so much time to do this for IF. Can they still make this happen in dying seconds?
Well, they've thankfully managed to clear out elbow. They'll destroy the shield as well, but it's already been reinforced off. Arrow will start to go to work with that Maverick torch, but with how slow that hard breaching can be, how much work is he going to get done? Vivid will thankfully manage to clear out Exot, who took a gunfight with the Hibana inside a pillar. Marmalade, who, actually, no, it's not Marmalade, it's the Lackey going to retake that position. Unfortunately, his teammate falls, but he's managed to down Vivid. But he's a bit of a precarious situation. 4 members all residing in or around Pillar and Lackey. He's the first member of Nocturnes, ready and willing to take a fight with any member that swings. It's Bartik right now. He doesn't kill him. It's Inrio who falls. He's got to take a second gunfight. With the Bailiff, it manages to work, but now they're moving into the side. He still manages one more with the Fuser dropped on the floor. Lackey goes absolutely massive. 2 rounds in a row for Nocturnes.
That was crazy. I thought that was gonna be a similar round to 2 weeks ago when it was Indy who was playing Harry Potter, kills 2 people, and it was like 10 seconds left, but IF still wins the round. I thought that was gonna happen there because it looked like they were raring up to just run to the site and start taking fights, which it looked pretty good for IF. But to Lackey with the Bailiff, oh my god, that was crazy. But either way, the start of the round was just as you'd expect. IF just doing their due diligence, trying to figure things out, but losing that Ying early on was huge. It's crucial. The fact that Exot pre-fires, kills Giddy early in the round, that kind of stops him from doing a laundry freezer take. So they rotate to an elbow back tower take, but by the time they get to that, it was already way late in the round. Elbow was already reinforced. Members of the defense were in position to try and stop the big tower take, that pillar take, but they could not stop IF because I feel like in those dying rounds, IF just gears up and they just start firing. They just start going all cylinders on gunfights, and they end up winning a lot of those gunfights in those late end up rounds sometimes when members from Nocturnes are sitting positions you're expected to be in. So it could have been a round for IF if Lackey didn't go insane.
Yeah, that's a good point. You said that IF can sometimes win rounds if you're playing in spots on the defense that IF are exactly anticipating you playing. But I don't think Lackey was in a spot they fully anticipated him playing, and especially prone on the floor with a Bailiff might have been not in the cards for what Sub was expecting to meet when he swung long like that. Don't think he anticipated that kind of play. But it's 2 defensive rounds in a row for Nocturnes, and now going to this tertiary site. This is where the attack struggled for Nocturnes when they were attacking. Of course, they did win their latter attempt, but their former attempt was one of their weaker rounds on their attacking half. For IF so far, they've instead taken away the Ying, put Giddy on the Twitch. Now, you do still get those smoke canisters, but of course, the elephant in the room, you lack those flashes that could be important. Could still destroy some useful utility, maybe some magnets. You see a Mozzie pest around a corner, could thread the needle, shoot your laser that way. But it's really a lot of the similar lineup. Giddy's been flexing around on things, but the other 4 members of IF have played fairly static.
So yeah, it's mainly the same interesting, yeah, and really it's interesting to see from the side NKG they're bringing both the alibi with the shield and bringing the frost with the shield. They bring a lot of shields.
They are bringing a lot of shields, but no smoke.
No smoke, yeah, no smoke. So it's not, again, like, there's not a lot of denial though. So it's only like 2 C4s and Sykes will kill Inrio. So there goes your entry fragger of Ash of Inrio. So it's unfortunate start. And Sykes has been pretty good on these entry games, denying picks from IF. And well, at least IF is taking full control of Big Tower. But like we saw before from IF's defense and Nocturne's attack, that's not all you need. You need to try and deal with these roamers so they aren't an issue later on. And really, with only nice grenade, hold back Sykes. Sykes walks away from that. That was scary.
Well, but also with Sykes, you do need to clear out these roamers, but built based on that necessity for the attack, though might not be a necessity realized if IF keep losing bodies in this way. By putting Sykes on the roam, and with how little plant denial they have on Nocturnes, if you lose Sykes on that roam, could be a lot difficult. But I say that, it's a 5v3 right now, and this roam has been perfectly successful. The only bit of damage has been Sykes, thanks to an almost perfectly cooked nade by Arrow, but again, it was almost perfectly cooked. Was not cooked properly, or where it should have been, or maybe Sykes just rotated off quicker than he expected.
Oh.
The second nade also was a bit of a fumble from the side of IF, and now moving forward, they still have their hard breacher alive of Vivid, but it's in a similar spot to what Nocturnes were dealing with. In a spot where they're low on manpower, they're low on utility, and when it comes to entering into the site, they have some of what they need, but not a lot to actually cover the bomb going down.
Yeah, it's interesting here that in this round, Nocturnes, well, Giddy gets the first pick on the Marmalade, so upstairs, one member goes down, pings another member of Sykes who's trying to play for that post plant, or he's trying to deny the plant with that C4, and so at that point, that member Sykes probably have to pull back. Actually, it was Lackey, I thought it was Sykes with the C4, but no, Lackey pull back, playing Attic, and really, it's interesting that they changed the wall, they opened, or they soft breach, or they have soft on the side to make it difficult for those members to walk in, because usually if you open up hard breach, that wall behind the desk, you can walk in and plants. Smokes come out, so at this point it looks like IFR trying to execute. They push into the site, into meeting, but so far that's not going well. Sykes downs Giddy. He's playing above because they never cleared an arrow. Great shot on the Lackey, and so far Vivi will take out Exod, and Nocturnes could put this together. Sykes is now in a 1v2.
He does have a C4, but Arrow's there for the coverage. That's the big problem right now, is where is Arrow playing? Sitting right directly on the diffuser, the player planting. Sykes catches the rotate off, but Vivid's currently prone, manages to get the kill. A 2v4 by AF. Benny, you said that they tend to win those rounds when players are playing in the exact positions they anticipate. Maybe that's exactly the scenario we just saw with IF taking their first round on attack.
That could have been, because that was scary, because we saw early in the round, they lost members early on IF. They were down to a 5v3 left in Big Tower to try and figure things out. And slowly but surely, they open things up. They gain control they need. They get the picks they need to push onto site, and they take control, even though that, Nocturnes try to recontrol of Attic and trying to stop the plants. It was Arrow. You saw Arrow deny that person on the Attic too. So it's just unfortunate that no matter what, Nocturnes time and time again were getting picked off by IF in this late game. And yeah, I am right. Maybe it's when it comes to those late game executes, and IF need to know, just need to go full throttle, the pressure to take fights, and they know where they are. They seem to win them every single time.
Well, going forward to dorms, this was, I wouldn't say this is exactly a situation where, it wasn't like basement where an alibi or Lackey was pushed far up with a bailiff prone on the floor. On Dorm specifically, Arrow did manage to get the opening pick onto Lackey. Funny enough, the Wamai jumping out of white window. But pushing into here was really just an example of Nocturnes playing all their proper positions, but IF, unfortunately, didn't have the manpower, the intel, pushing successfully and win those fights. If you're swinging bunker, I think that would technically be an accurate call. If you're swinging Attic doorway, it'd be a bit more accurate of a call out. With not much intel, it's always going to be a difficult fight for the attack to win. Same if you're barreling in through breach and you're not sure where the players are playing over by big window, inside of dorms, and if that's only where your attack is coming from, like IF had, it's just going to be difficult to take the site, plain and simple. So if IF managed to not only diversify their attacking setup more, but actually manage to contend with the players that they have to push in from those various angles, could again be a successful round that sends them to match point.
Could be, yeah. It looks like they brought Arrow on the Maverick, and he's going over towards Big Tower. So it seems like that they're doing exactly that. They're diversifying their attack, which I say diversifying, but doing it at a game's take is kind of normal.
Yeah, but it's still fulfilling the intention of going multiple positions. Because I mean, they did try. They tried to send Arrow on white stairs, but he lost his gunfight, and then they were forced to push in. So the main key here is not exactly just doing it, period, but doing it successfully.
Very true. And yeah, I kind of feel like sending Arrow by himself last time was kind of feels bad too.
Yeah,
by himself trying to push up white stairs. Like,
yeah.
Well, so far Sykes will get the entry pick for the round. He downs sub and denies that push for his members. At least makes it difficult for his members in IF to push into bedroom. So and a second one for me. So in row 2, great pre-fire onto the walk-in closet, and Sykes has single-handedly stopped this push into master bedroom.
This is exactly the kind of play we thought we would see from Sykes going in. We saw a little bit in their previous game against Fernie's Tacos, but going in, a lot of questions about Sykes. Who is this man? What can he do? Why does he look like Post Malone? What? We got an answer to 2 of those questions. Why is he here? Well, I guess that's one question. We'll answer that one for right now. Why is he here? He's really good in positions like that, where he has to frag out, and if he has to play his life, he can normally come away with at least one frag. In this case, two, completely unpunished. Excellent work from Sykes. You can't hope for a better start. I guess almost end of your round now, because we're almost at the final minute.
Why do you look like Post Malone? That's my question.
It's a fair question. I mean, we're all born the way we look. Why are you and I not average height for a man?
Oh,
it's a fair question.
Make me feel bad. You give me depression blanks. Come on.
I'm sorry.
But either way, we go into the last minute of the round here, and these members of IF need to cook it into overtime, and sometimes what could be big for them as Sykes goes down to a great grenade from the attack. He's down, but Sykes can also now work as, maybe a drone to see what the intel is for his team, as they still have the manpower advantage in these dying moments. Arrow's going to be a key point. If he can help out in that attic push and deny the people and kids, it could be a big buff for these members of IF who are pushing in from trophy and games to the wall. And so, well, Vivid takes the first pick. He finishes off FICO. Great shots. Vivid the second with a bearing 9. Well, actually, no, it's not a lie. That's like down already. But Vivid will get the plant down. Arrow with a great marmalade. Maybe a second? No, unfortunately, not well. My pushes up. It's Lucky with a great shot. Deals with the person attic. It's 2v2 post plant though. Can the members of IF like Vivid get out with their lives?
That is the question. Lackey low HP will reactivate the Arunigate. Exod's managed to find one, but the last one's override breach. Almost lands the pre-fire, but the bullets go wide. It's Exods who have nailed their mark, and only one more has to hit for Nocturns to even things up 5-5. Giddy's rotated down below on 1 HP. This is still going to be difficult, but he's in the advantage, even though it's a 1v1. He just has to put fear in Exod's mind. Keep baiting off the plant, and it's Exod to try to make the play. He'll start the defuse. All he has to do is land one shot. He'll rotate off, but Giddy's playing this perfectly. He's won the round. 7 seconds eclipse. Exod, you get the kill, but IF gets the round. 6-4 match point. Beautifully played by Giddy.
Wow, Giddy, that is how you play it. Just make noise, create fear, get them off that disable. Great job from IF, and really, that was a round again where Nocturnes had the early advantage. It was Sykes to put them in that 5v3 to stop them from taking control of Master Bedroom and Walk-in Closet. And he did just that. But even then, it's still, when it came to execute those last 3 members of IF, Arrow gets a pick. Vivid, Giddy, they walk in, take picks on site somehow, even though they had the man advantage, and they get the plant down. They didn't have the necessary members to deal with the plant, and they create a 2v2 post-plant execute. And really, it was 2-1v2 actually. It was a 1v2 for a second there, because it was Giddy was 1v2, but Giddy gets that refrag, of course, and it makes it 1v1. You're just waiting. Giddy plays it perfectly. Sits around the corner, makes noise, runs around. Can't do much there.
You really cannot. Going back to basement could be the final sight for the first game of today's play day. This was a side that, of course, Nocturnes did win, but two big moments in this round. Giddy on the Ying. First pick was killed outside the building of Big Tower. Didn't even have a chance to have any bit of impact. So, if he's actually a force to be reckoned with in this round, or really a force at all, could go a lot differently for IF. Second big thing of that round. Lackey able to make that play, retaking into Pillar. Not only did he get 1 kill, he got 3. But even if he got that 1, as long as he's a continued threat based on how low on time IF were in their execute, that's enough at that point. Kind of like Giddy trying to bait out Exod on that post plan. All Lackey had to do in that situation was continue just being a thought, being a fear in the mind of IF. And he's had his impact. So for IF, it's going to be a matter of, again, being a little bit quicker on that take. But also, if you can keep Giddy alive, even if you're slow, you can still get a lot done with that Ying.
Let's see. It looks like Inrio stepping on the pedal right now, and I think last time there were members of Nocturnes who were playing a bit aggressive. You see one on T3, you see a couple on Freezer Stairs who are baiting out some of that aggression, but they're trying to just push and pull, trying to make IF hesitate, make them take time and waste time on this this execute of theirs, a setup of theirs as they push down. But those members of all members from Nocturnes have returned back to site. Grenade gets caught by a disc being thrown in the back of Freezer, and now I have to go to work and have to open up all these floors, open up everything you need, and create that execute once more.
Moving on forward, also looking to maybe make some headway upstairs, but no, nobody's up there. They're just peeking up to get that default cam, then they'll start moving back down. Giddy is thankfully alive, so they don't have to worry about losing him to a member outside the building, but look at this. 2 members of Nocturne starting to get aggressive on Big Tower Stairs. Then you're placing a breach charge on the wall. One will peek, and he'll destroy the... Oh no, he actually will not destroy the breach charge. He just fires some shots, makes Inrio a little bit nervous to open things up or retake that angle, but thankfully, now rotated back down and all moving forward onto the site. Now, of course, the important thing here for Nocturns is they're not running a Warden. Keep that in mind. IF, that's how they countered many of Nocturne's Ying plays, and it's not a factor here for Nocturnes, especially since this is such a concentrated anchor hold from Nocturnes. Those Candelas, once those magnets are burned as well, are ripe for impact. If Giddy can continue surviving, and once that execute happens, if he can throw those Candelas, he's the player you got to watch right now.
Well, the question is, are they going to go for this laundry main stairs or laundry freezer execute like you've seen when you bring a Ying, or are they going for a back tower execute? Arrow's trying to peek around that backside, but it seems to be mainly a laundry freezer execute for IF. And the question is, time's ticking down though. What are they waiting for? Why are they taking so long to make this push happen? Well, Arrow throws a grenade down to deal with one. A grenade goes by. One of the members gets pushed back. His eggs on. Here comes the Candelas from Kitty. Throws him down into laundry smoke as well. And there's all of the utility thrown out. Arrow with the first pick on the backside, causing members not be aware. Giddy with another kill. Marmalade does fight back a little bit, denies the push backside. But these members of IF are take control of that freezer laundry area, and there it is. In Real 2. Giddy with the last one, and IF will take the game.
And how poetic it is, Benny, that the final round, we saw an execute not in the red zone. Candelas used to their maximum potential. Smokes used to cut off angles. All the problems we saw in IF's Ying play last time on Oregon were completely gone in that round. In fact, many of their problems were gone in that round in general. It is important to note that for a couple rounds, I actually think the majority defensive rounds, Nocturnes got the opening pick. You can thank, in fact, Sykes for a couple of those rounds.
Sykes was crazy.
But this was a situation where IF, there was still some of that attacking late in the game, pushing it to the red zone. But they still managed to get all their frags, sometimes in a clutch, sometimes in a colossal wave of usually frags from Vivid or Giddy. But then in that final round as well, that is the IF we knew there was potential for on Oregon, and I'm glad we finally got to see it. So
a successful Ying execute when it comes to the last final round. That is great to see from IF, and it's what we want to see. We want to see improvement from these teams. We want to see that teams are, they've made mistakes in the past, but they're working those mistakes, getting better at it. And we saw this. We saw IF this game. They were stepping on a pedal. Members were walking into the building and not just lollygagging for 2 minutes.
And Nocturnes, of course, they also showed some weaknesses, some points for improvement, but that's not for Benny and I to discuss. We can throw it back to the desk for them to decide or to talk about how IF and Nocturnes looked in today's Playday.